Jimi Hendrix on a UK stage the first time. Hey there, rock folks. October 1st, 1966. Jimi Hendrix makes his UK stage debut by casually walking on stage with Cream at the London Polytechnic. At the time, Eric Clapton is the untouchable guitar god of Britain. But Hendrix? He's about to change the game completely. In front of a stunned crowd, and even more a stunned Clapton, Hendrix shreds through a version of Howling Wolf's Killing Floor with such a wild precision that Cream's rhythmic section can barely keep up. Clapton later recalls that this was the first time in his life he was truly afraid of another guitarist. Check out more stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. Elvis moves for the last time. Hey there, rock and roll enthusiasts. 2nd of October, 1977. Elvis Presley's body is relocated to its final resting place in the Meditation Garden at Graceland after authorities uncover a plot to steal his remains. Because nothing about Elvis's life or afterlife is normal, even his resting place becomes part of a rock legend. Check out more stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. October 3rd, 1945. That's 80 years ago today. 10-year-old Elvis Presley takes the stage for the first time ever at a talent contest during the Mississippi, Alabama Dairy Show, singing Old Shep. He finishes second, but the real win? It marks the first public performance of the future king of rock and roll. Nobody in the audience that day could have predicted that this shy kid in overalls would one day change music forever. Goodbye, Janis Joplin. Hey there, rock and roll enthusiasts. October 4th, 1970. That's 55 years ago today. The music world loses one of its most electrifying talents when Janis Joplin dies of an accidental heroin overdose at just 27 years old. She had been in the middle of recording her second solo album, Pearl, which is released 3 months later and becomes her biggest commercial success. Despite her brief career, Joplin's blues-drenched vocals and electrifying stage presence redefine rock and soul singing, with Piece of My Heart and Me and Bobby McGee securing her legendary status. Check out more day-to-day stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. The Beatles released their first single. Hey there, rock and roll folks. October 5th, 1962. The Beatles changed the musical landscape forever with the UK release of their debut single, Love Me Do. Though it only peaks at number 17 on the charts, it marks the beginning of something massive. When the single finally hits US airwaves in April 1964, it rockets straight to number 1, cementing Beatlemania as an unstoppable force. The jaunty, harmonica-driven track would later land on their debut album, Please Please Me, kicking off a pop revolution. Check out more stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. The predecessor of Lollapalooza. Hey there, rock and roll folks. 6th of October, 1990. That's 35 years ago today. Soundgarden, Iggy Pop, Ice-T, The Cramps, Joan Baez, and Public Enemy are just a few of the unlikely but brilliant mix of artists performing at a gathering of tribes at Shoreline Amphitheater, California. Organized by the cult's Ian Astbury, the festival brings together rock, punk, hip hop, and folk, a genre blurring concept that Lollapalooza would perfect just 1 year later. Check out more stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. Elvis's Christmas and 500,000 pre-orders. Hey there, rock and roll folks. October 7th, 1957. Elvis Presley proves that rock and roll and Christmas are a perfect match when pre-orders for Elvis's Christmas album hit 500,000 copies, earning it a gold status before it even hits the shelves. Over time, it becomes the best-selling Christmas album of all time, ensuring that the Blue Christmas and Santa Claus is Back in Town remain holiday staples for generations to come. Check out more stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. ZZ Top, riding the space race marketing wave of their Afterburner album, book 3 seats on what is announced as the first ever passenger flight to the moon. Whether they ever actually expected to go is debatable, but the publicity stunt fits right with their larger-than-life personas and their space trucking aesthetic. The flight, of course, never happens, but ZZ Top's beard game remains intergalactic level strong. Happy birthday, Sean Lennon. Hey there, rock and roll folks. October 9th, 1975. That's 50 years ago today. On John Lennon's 35th birthday, Yoko Ono gives birth to Sean Ono Taro Lennon. Unlike his father's whirlwind rise to fame, Sean takes his time with music, honing his skills as a multi-instrumentalist and producer. Over the years he collaborates with Lana Del Rey, Soulfly, and Les Claypool, carving out a distinct musical identity while embracing his Lennon legacy in his own understated way. Check out more stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. No Doubt and the Rise to Stardom. Hey there, rock and roll fans. October 10th, 1995. That's 30 years ago today. No Doubt released Tragic Kingdom, the album that catapults them from ska punk underground to pop rock royalty. With Just a Girl and Don't Speak leading the charge, the album sells 10 million copies in the US alone. And Gwen Stefani, with her platinum blonde hair, crop tops and boundless energy, becomes an instant icon. Check out more stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. Dave Grohl behind Nirvana's drum kit for the first time. Hey there, grunge fans. October 11th, 1990. That's 35 years ago today. Dave Grohl plays his very first show with Nirvana behind the drum kit at North Shore Surf Club in Olympia, Washington. The band first spotted him thanks to Buzz Osborne of the Melvins, who told them, "You gotta see this guy." When Kurt Cobain watched Grohl in action with his previous band Scream, he immediately knew, that's the kind of drummer we need. The rest, as they say, is grunge history. Check out more day-to-day stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. Sid Vicious gets arrested for murder. Hey there, rock fans. October 12th, 1978. Sid Vicious, the notorious Sex Pistols bassist, is arrested for murdering his girlfriend Nancy Spungen. The couple had been living chaotically at New York's Chelsea Hotel, with hard drugs and violent fights marking their relationship. After a night of partying, Nancy is found stabbed to death, and Sid, too out of it to recall what happened, becomes the prime suspect. Before he can stand trial, he dies of a heroin overdose while out on bail, sealing the tragic, nihilistic legend of punk rock's most doomed couple. Check out more stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. The Prince becomes a symbol, literally. Hey there, rock folks. October 13th, 1992. Prince drops an album with no name, just a mysterious symbol on the cover. While Led Zeppelin famously used runes on Led Zeppelin 4, Prince takes it a step further. The symbol isn't just the album's name, it becomes his name. The following year, he fully commits, changing his moniker to the unpronounceable glyph that leaves DJs, award shows, and record executives scrambling for ways to refer to him. For a while, he's simply the artist formerly known as Prince. Check out more day-to-day stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. Grace Slick's debut on front of the Jefferson Airplane. Hey there, classic rock lovers. October 14th, 1966. Grace Slick makes her electrifying debut with Jefferson Airplane at Fillmore West, stepping into the lead role like she was born for it. Replacing Signe Anderson, Slick's arrival marks a turning point for the band, as her booming vocals and psychedelic charisma take them to new heights. Just a year later, she'll be leading Woodstock crowds in sing-alongs of White Rabbit and Somebody to Love. Check out more day-to-day stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. And while you're at it, this is the 70th video that I've done for this series. And there's still over 2,600 of these nitbits or anecdotes or stories day to day. Approximately a 7 per day, every day of the year. If you like these stories, go ahead and check out the book from Amazon store. It's 407 pages for $25, and it includes your birthday every year. See ya. 70 years ago today. Whew. Buddy Holly gets his big break opening for Elvis Presley at the Cotton Globes Big D Jamboree in Lubbock, Texas. In the audience that night is Nashville talent scout Eddie Crandall, who immediately sees star potential. After the show, Crandall wastes no time inviting Holly to record some demos for Decca Records, a move that kickstarts his legendary, though tragically short career. Little Richard in the studio for the first time. Hey there, rock and roll folks. October 16th, 1951. 18-year-old Richard Penniman, already performing as Little Richard, steps into the studio for the first time, recording his earliest tracks for RCA Camden at Atlanta radio station WGST. Though these early recordings don't bring him instant fame, they lay the groundwork for explosive, piano-bounding rock and roll style that will later make him a legend. Check out more day-to-day stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. The first Beatles Christmas record. Hey there, rock folks. October 17th, 1963. The Beatles record their first ever Christmas record, a spoken word holiday greeting sent exclusively to members of their fan club. The tradition continues annually until 1970, with each recording featuring the band's trademark humor, inside jokes, and sometimes experimental sound collages. These collectible vinyl records remain highly sought after by fans. Check out more stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. Today is the Rocky Horror Picture Day. Hey there, rock and roll fans and movie fans. October 18th, 1991. Los Angeles officially declares it Rocky Horror Picture Day, celebrating the enduring cult status of the 1975 musical film, known for its interactive midnight screenings, costumed audiences, and fan participation. Rocky Horror remains one of the most beloved cult films of all time. Check out more stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. Lynyrd Skynyrd's final show. Hey there, rock and roll fans. October 19th, 1977. Lynyrd Skynyrd play their final concert before the tragic plane crash that claims the lives of Ronnie Van Zant, Steve Gaines, and Cassie Gaines. The show takes place in Greenville, South Carolina, with Nazareth as the opening act. Check out more day-to-day stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. The tragic plane crash of Lynyrd Skynyrd. Hey there, rock fans. October 20th, 1977. Lynyrd Skynyrd board a plane after a show at Greenville Memorial Auditorium bound for Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Tragically, the plane runs out of fuel and crashes during an emergency landing attempt. Ronnie Van Zant, Steve Gaines, Cassie Gaines, and assistant road manager Dean Kilpatrick lose their lives. The crash occurs just 3 days after the release of their album Street Survivors, which eerily featured a cover image of the band surrounded by flames. The band does not reform for a decade, and it takes 14 years for them to complete the journey back to Baton Rouge. Check out more stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. Goodbye, Sandy West. Hey there, rock fans. October 21st, 2006. That's almost 20 years ago. Sandy West, the groundbreaking drummer and co-founder of The Runaways, passes away. Hailed as one of the most influential female drummers in rock history, West, alongside Joan Jett, played a pivotal role in paving the way for women in rock music. May her rest in peace. Check out more day-to-day stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. The first ever Pearl Jam concert. Hey there, rock and roll folks. October 22nd, 1990. That's 35 years ago today. Pearl Jam, still known as Mookie Blaylock, played their first ever concert at the Off-Ramp in Seattle. The setlist is packed with future classics from their yet-to-be-released debut album 10, including Alive, Once, Even Flow, Black, and Release. Wish I'd be there. Check out more stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. A 50-50 for George Thorogood. Hey there, rock fans. October 23rd, 1981. George Thorogood embarks on his legendary 50-50th tour, playing 50 shows in 50 states in 50 consecutive nights. The tour kicks off in Honolulu, Hawaii, and after a quick flight to Alaska, the rest is non-stop road travel, concluding as planned in Pasadena, California. Check out more day-to-day stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. Paul McCartney in the Guinness Book of World Records. Hey there, rock folks. October 24th, 1980. That's 45 years ago today. Paul McCartney is honored by the Guinness Book of World Records, receiving a special Rhodium album for being the best-selling songwriter in history. At the time, he had written 43 platinum-certified songs that sold over 100 million records, solidifying his status as one of the most successful musicians ever. And that was 45 years ago today. Check out more stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. That's 25 years ago today. Oh, time flies. Limp Bizkit's album Chocolate Starfish and the hot dog flavored water sells over 1,054,000 copies in the first week, becoming the last rock album to achieve over 1 million sales in a single week. The last rock album. The album represents the peak of nu metal's mainstream dominance, though the genre's popularity soon begins to wane. The San Francisco Pop Festival. What a gathering. Hey there, rock fans. October 26th, 1968. The San Francisco Pop Festival kicks off at the Alameda County Fairgrounds, featuring performances from The Animals, Procol Harum, Iron Butterfly, Jose Feliciano, Deep Purple, Creedence Clearwater Revival, and Canned Heat. The two-day festival adds to San Francisco's reputation as a hub for the counterculture movement and psychedelic rock. Check out more day-to-day stories from the actual book, the Rock and Roll Almanac. The first Rolling Stones demos. Hey there, rock and roll enthusiasts. 27th of October, 1962. The Rolling Stones record their first demos at Curly Clayton Studios in London, covering songs by Muddy Waters, Jimmy Reed and Bo Diddley. When they sent the recordings to various record companies, they received little interest, though it wouldn't take long before they became one of the biggest bands in history. Check out more day-to-day stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. The Tammy Show, Teenage Music International show, kicks off its first 2 nights in Santa Barbara, California. The star-studded event features performances by Chuck Berry, The Supremes, The Beach Boys, James Brown, Marvin Gaye, The Rolling Stones, The Miracles, Jan and Dean, Leslie Gore, and Jerry and the Pacemakers. The concert is filmed and released as a movie later in 1964, capturing one of the most legendary rock and R&B lineups of the decade. Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon breaks some records again. Hey there, rock folks. October 29th, 1983. Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon breaks the record for most weeks on the Billboard Albums chart, surpassing Johnny Mathis's greatest hits with 491 weeks. It remains on the chart until 1988, when it drops off at 724 weeks. The album eventually returns with reissues and special promotions, amassing over 880 weeks on the Billboard 200, making it one of the longest charting albums in history. Check out more day-to-day stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. John Lennon's Imagine tops the charts. Hey there, rock and roll enthusiasts. October 30th, 1971. John Lennon's sophomore solo album Imagine tops the UK charts. Today, Imagine is regarded as one of the greatest albums of all time, featuring such classics as Jealous Guy, Oh Yoko, and the iconic title track, which became a global anthem for peace. Check out more day-to-day stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac. A great chance for Chuck Berry. Hey there, rock folks. October 31st, 1952. When his original guitarist suffers a stroke just before a New Year's Eve gig, popular St. Louis boogie-woogie pianist Johnny Johnson hires a 26-year-old hairdresser named Chuck Berry for his group, the Sir John's Trio. This partnership helps launch Berry's legendary career, with Johnson's boogie-woogie piano style heavily influencing Berry's signature rock and roll sound. Check out more stories from the Rock and Roll Almanac.